Picture yourself waking up in the Cretaceous period. Warm air, strange plants, and something the size of a school bus staring at you from the tree line. You have about 4 seconds to enjoy the view. This is a video about why apes, your ancestors, my ancestors, could not have survived the age of dinosaurs. And honestly, the reasons are almost insulting. Let's start with the most basic problem. Apes didn't exist yet. Not hadn't evolved to be smart enough yet, not were still small yet. They simply were not a thing. The first primates resembling anything ape-like show up around 25 million years ago, in the early Miocene. The Mesozoic ended 66 million years ago. That's a 40 million year gap, which is the evolutionary equivalent of showing up to a party 40 years after it ended, finding the house demolished, and asking where the snacks are. Even the earliest primate-like mammals, the plesiadapiforms, don't show up in the fossil record until right at the tail end of the Cretaceous, and they looked more like a cross between a squirrel and a regret. You drop a modern chimpanzee, or better, let's be generous and drop a whole troop of them into the late Cretaceous with a stocked pantry and a positive attitude. What happens next depends entirely on what they eat, and this is where things go badly almost immediately. Apes survive on fruit, leaves, insects, and the occasional small animal. For most of the Mesozoic, fruit does not exist. Flowering plants, the entire category that produces fruit, didn't diversify until roughly 100 million years ago. And even then, it took tens of millions of years for anything resembling a modern fruiting tree to show up. Before that, the forest is ferns, conifers, cycads, and ginkgos. Nutritious in a technical sense, absolutely useless to a primate digestive system built around sugar and soft plant matter. Your ape troop would be sitting in a lush, green, completely inedible forest, slowly starving to death, surrounded by salad they cannot eat, which is possibly the most polite way nature has ever devised to kill something. Let's say, generously, they find some cycad seeds and choke them down. Bad news. Cycads contain compounds like cycacin, mildly to severely toxic to most mammals, causing liver damage and neurological symptoms with repeated exposure. Modern research on flying foxes and livestock that accidentally eat cycads shows tremors, paralysis, and organ failure. So the diet that doesn't starve them slowly poisons them instead. At this point, the ape troop is 0 for 2, and we haven't even discussed anything with teeth yet. Now, let's discuss the things with teeth. The Mesozoic forest floor was patrolled by small and mid-sized theropods, fast, warm-blooded, pack-hunting predators. Something like Deinonychus, a wolf-sized, sickle-clawed predator from the early Cretaceous of North America, hunted in coordinated groups and could run down prey through underbrush with a claw specifically evolved for disemboweling. Pteranodon, smaller and unsettlingly intelligent for a dinosaur, had excellent night vision and binocular sight, meaning even camping after dark wouldn't help. An ape has no horns, no armor, no venom, and a top running speed that would be described charitably as adequate for fleeing a golf cart. Chimpanzees can climb, which helps, except plenty of small theropods could climb too. And pterosaurs like Pteranodon were actively patrolling the canopy and coastline from above. There was, at the time, no safe altitude. Ground level gets you run down. Trees get you snatched from above. It's less a survival scenario and more a controlled demolition with extra steps. Let's talk about the ones you'd never even see coming. Mesozoic insects included dragonfly relatives with wingspans over 2 feet. Giant cockroaches, and depending on the exact period, ants and other arthropods your immune system has never met and has 0 antibodies for. New parasites, new bacteria, new fungal spores your body has no evolutionary memory of. Modern humans get violently ill visiting places with unfamiliar pathogens after a 10-hour flight. Imagine the immune system of a chimpanzee meeting bacteria that split off from anything familiar 66 million years ago. It would not go well, and it would go badly in ways nobody would even have a name for, because the diagnosis, unknown Mesozoic bug did something horrible to you isn't really actionable advice, and there's no clinic for 40 million years in any direction. Then there's the atmosphere itself, which sounds dramatic, but genuinely matters. Oxygen levels during parts of the Mesozoic, particularly the Triassic, were lower than today, sometimes estimated around 12 to 15% compared to today's 21%, while carbon dioxide levels were significantly higher, sometimes 4 to 5 times modern concentrations. Modern mammals, including us, are calibrated to modern air. Drop a primate into thinner oxygen and thicker CO2, and you get fatigue, impaired judgment, headaches, and reduced physical performance, which is an extremely bad combination of side effects to have while being actively hunted by something with a mouth full of railroad spikes. You would not simply be prey, you would be slow, dizzy prey, which from a predator's perspective is basically a delivery service. And even if, somehow, none of that killed them, there's the competition. Mesozoic mammals existed, animals like Morganucodon and later Rapinomamus, but they occupied a very specific, very narrow niche, small, mostly nocturnal, insect-eating, and constantly hiding. Rapinomamus is actually one of the rare exceptions, a badger-sized mammal known for having eaten baby dinosaurs, but even it was still operating in the shadows of animals dozens of times its size. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's the only lifestyle dinosaurs allowed. Mammals spent nearly the entire Mesozoic evolutionarily flattened into the shadows because anything bigger or bolder got eaten. An ape is neither small nor nocturnal, nor built to hide. It's a mid-sized, loud, curious, diurnal animal walking directly into an ecosystem that had spent over 150 million years actively selecting against exactly that body plan. It's less fish out of water and more fish that wandered onto the highway during rush hour. So let's tally the scoreboard. No food they can digest. The food they can choke down is toxic. Multiple tiers of predators on the ground, in the trees, and in the air, including at least one that can see them coming at night. An atmosphere they're not built for. Pathogens with no name and no cure. And an entire ecological order actively hostile to anything resembling their body type. At this point, the ape troop isn't just unlikely to survive, they're basically a walking buffet with commentary. And the commentary is mostly just screaming. Here's the part that makes it worse. This isn't a close call. This isn't they'd struggle but probably adapt. Adaptation takes generations, and generations require survivors. And survivors are the one resource this scenario does not provide. A troop of apes dropped into the Mesozoic wouldn't found a new evolutionary lineage. They'd become, at absolute best, a genuinely fascinating stomach content sample for whatever thing found them first. Paleontologists 66 million years later would find some very confusing bone fragments mixed in with a theropod's last meal, and spend decades arguing in academic journals about what they were, possibly naming an entirely new, extremely short-lived genus in their honor. And that's really the point of this whole thought experiment. We tend to imagine ourselves, or our closest relatives, as tough, adaptable, resourceful, the kind of creature that could figure it out. But survival isn't really about toughness. It's about fit. It's about whether the body you have matches the world you're standing in. Ancient mammals survived the Mesozoic not because they were brave or clever, but because they were small enough and quiet enough and nocturnal enough to not be worth eating. They survived by being beneath notice. An ape is the opposite of beneath notice. An ape is a 6-course meal that occasionally throws sticks and makes eye contact, which in the animal kingdom is basically a dinner bell. So, no, apes could not survive the Mesozoic. Not because they're weak, but because they showed up 40 million years too late, to a world with nothing they could eat, patrolled by things actively built to eat them, breathing air that wasn't built for them, surrounded by microbes with zero interest in a truce. It's not a fair fight. It's not even really a fight. It's closer to room service, and the tip is your entire species.